I'm Jessica Harper, 22, an environmental specialist in Portland, always racing against deadlines to save wetlands or test soil samples. But nothing could have prepared me for the storm waiting at my family's dinner. I'd rushed to a cozy restaurant downtown late from a last-minute project meltdown. My aunt had landed me my dream job, and this dinner was my chance to thank her. The place was alive with chatter, but when I walked in, my family was already done. Plates, cleared wine glasses drained their laughter sharp. My mom slid a bill across the table, $8,000 for a sedan my sister wanted. My stomach dropped. "You're joking, right?" I said, my voice tight. My sister smirked, leaning back. "Come on, Jess, you're the big earner now." The table erupted, my mom, dad, even my aunt laughing like it was a prank. They'd ordered the priciest dishes, top-shelf wine, knowing I'd show up late. I was their fixer, the one who always paid phone bills, shopping sprees, my sister's endless needs. But this was a slap in the face. My hands shook as I stared at the bill, their giggles cutting deeper than any client email. I spent years bailing them out, my savings drained for their comfort. Something snapped. I didn't just see a bill, I saw every dollar I'd given up, every dream I delayed. "You expect me to pay for her car?" I asked, voice trembling. My dad leaned forward, eyes cold. "Jess, you're doing so well. Step up for family." My sister's grin widened, mocking me. I shoved the bill back my chair, scraping loud. "No way," I said, and walked out their silence, chasing me into the night. If you've ever felt like your family's personal wallet taken for granted, while they laugh, hit that like button, subscribe, and drop your story in the comments. You won't believe what happened next. Driving away from that restaurant, my hands still shook, the sting of my family's laughter burning in my chest. I couldn't shake the image of my sister's smirk. My mom sliding that $8,000 bill like it was my job to fix their mess. As Portland's city lights blurred past, I realized this wasn't new. It was just the loudest note in a song I'd been hearing for years. I'd always been the responsible one, the daughter who made it through college on scholarships and late-night study sessions. My father, William Harper, used to fix cars until his back gave out at 50, leaving him glued to a worn-out recliner, complaining about bills. My mother, Cynthia Harper, worked long hours as a bank teller, her smile fading with every shift. Then there was my sister, Stacy Harper, 19, living at home, chasing dreams of being a fashion influencer, but spending more time shopping than working. It started small. A few years back, my mom called voice heavy saying Stacy needed $500 for community college textbooks. I sent the money thinking it was a one-time thing. Then my dad needed $300 for a new water heater when theirs broke. I covered that too, my bank account taking the hit. Stacy was the worst, always texting. "Jess, can you spot me $100 for new clothes? It's for my brand." I bought her a $1,000 camera to launch her career, only to see it collect dust while she scrolled social media. The biggest blow was $2,000 for their mortgage after a late notice came. I didn't mind at first. Family helps family, right? I'd clawed my way into a job as an environmental specialist testing soil and water for local projects, but my paycheck barely stretched. Every month it was something new, utility bills, Stacy's phone plan, or another emergency. My savings dwindled, my dream of a small apartment in Portland fading with every transfer. I'd lie awake, my stomach twisting, wondering how I'd afford my own rent if I kept bailing them out. My dad would call, his tone thick with guilt. "Jess, you're doing better than us. Can't you help your old man?" My mom was smoother, dropping hints about family loyalty. "We've always been there for you, Jess." Stacy didn't bother with guilt. She'd just text, "Yo, Jess, need cash for gas." Saying no felt impossible. Their disappointed sighs or sharp comments made me feel like the selfish one. The worst part? They never asked about me. My job was demanding long hours in muddy fields, endless reports, but they didn't care. To them, I was a walking ATM, the one who'd always say yes. They'd mock my work, calling it playing in the dirt or tree hugger stuff. Once I told my mom I was saving for an apartment. She laughed. Oh, Jess, you'll get there after you help Stacy with her phone bill. It hurt, but I still sent the money. I started dreading their calls, my phone buzzing like a warning. I'd check my bank balance obsessively, watching my dreams slip away. My boss noticed my stress, asking if I was okay, but I brushed it off. I wanted to tell them to stop, to handle their own problems, but guilt choked me. What kind of daughter says no to her parents? What kind of sister lets her sibling struggle? I kept telling myself I could manage, that I'd balance their needs with mine. But that night driving home, their laughter still echoing, I knew I couldn't keep this up. I wasn't just their fixer, I was their victim, trapped by their demands. Something had to change, and it was going to start with me. A week after storming out of that restaurant, my resolve was still burning, but guilt gnawed at me. I'd spent years being their fixer, and saying no felt like betraying family. Yet I couldn't shake the memory of their laughter, the way they'd mocked my job like it was a hobby. My phone buzzed with a text from my mother, Cynthia Harper, asking me to come back for another dinner to talk things out. Against my better judgment, I agreed, hoping for an apology, maybe a shred of respect. I pulled into the same downtown Portland restaurant, my stomach tight, bracing for a fight. The private dining room was packed, my father, William Harper, at the head of the table, my mother beside him, and my sister, Stacy Harper, scrolling her phone with that familiar smirk. My aunt was there too, her smile forced like she knew something I didn't. The air was thick with tension, the scent of roasted chicken and red wine barely masking it. I sat down, my hands clenched, expecting a conversation. Instead, my dad leaned forward, his voice heavy. Jess, we're disappointed. You walked out on family last week. Before I could respond, Stacy looked up, her eyes glinting. Yeah, Jess. You're too busy playing with dirt to care about us. The table chuckled. My mom, dad, even my aunt joined in, their laughter slicing through me. I forced a smile, trying to stay calm, but my mother's phone pinged. She slid it toward me, her expression cold. Read this, Jess. It was a text typed like a contract family support plan. Jess, you'll contribute $800 a month for Stacy's expenses. It's only fair. My heart pounded, my fingers gripping the phone. $800 a month. For Stacy's shopping sprees. Her influencer dreams. I looked up, stunned. You expect me to bankroll her life? I asked, my voice shaking. My father's face hardened. You're doing well, Jess. Don't be selfish. Family comes first. Stacy grinned, folding her arms. Come on, Jess. It's not like your job's that important. The laughter started again, louder, grating against my nerves. I thought of every dollar I'd sent them, textbooks, mortgage payments, Stacy's camera. I thought of my empty savings, the apartment I couldn't afford, the nights I'd spent stressing over their next demand. They didn't see me as family. They saw me as their solution, a checkbook to prop up their lives. My mother's smile was tight, expectant, like she was waiting for me to cave. Stacy's smirk was unbearable, like she enjoyed watching me squirm. Even my aunt, who I thanked for my job, stayed silent, her eyes avoiding mine. I took a deep breath, my anger boiling over. I'm not paying this, I said, my voice steady despite the knot in my chest. I pushed the phone back across the table, the screen glowing with their ridiculous demand. The laughter stopped. My mother's face fell, her tone sharp. Jess, don't make a scene. We raised you better. My dad chimed in, his voice low. You owe us, Jess. Don't turn your back now. Stacy rolled her eyes. What, you think you're too good for us now? The guilt I'd carried for years surged up, but something else was stronger, rage. I'd given them everything, and they still mocked me, still demanded more. I've paid enough, I said, my voice rising. I've covered your bills, Stacy's clothes, your house. When does it stop? My mother tried to interrupt, but I cut her off. No, I'm done being your bank. I stood in my chair, scraping the floor, the sound echoing in the stunned silence. Their faces were a mix of shock and anger, but I didn't care. I grabbed my purse, my hands trembling, and walked out, the restaurant's warm lights fading behind me. The cool Portland air hit my face, but it couldn't cool the fire inside. I wasn't just angry at them. I was angry at myself for letting this go on so long. As I unlocked my car, my phone buzzed again, a new text from my mom. "You'll regret this, Jess." I stared at the screen, my resolve hardening. This wasn't the end. It was the beginning of something new. I was done playing their game. 2 weeks after I walked out of that restaurant, my phone was a war zone. Texts, voicemails, all from my family, each one sharper than the last. My mother, Cynthia Harper, sent a string of messages. "Jess, you embarrassed us, and how could you abandon your sister?" My father, William Harper, was colder. "We need to talk, Jess. Now." Stacy, my sister, didn't bother with text. She posted a snarky comment online. Some people get a job and forget their roots. It had 15 likes, mostly from distant cousins. My blood boiled not just at their words, but at their nerve to paint me as the villain. I drove to their house in outer Portland, the old wooden place looking more worn than ever. My father had called the night before, his voice softer, saying we needed a family meeting. I agreed, not for them, but because I wanted answers. I'd spent years draining my savings for their demands, and their $800 a month family plan was the final straw. I parked, my heart pounding, and stepped inside, the familiar creak of the door setting my nerves on edge. My parents sat on the sagging couch, my mother's hands folded tight, my father's jaw set. Stacy lounged in a chair, scrolling her phone, barely glancing up. "Jess, good you came," my mother said, her tone clipped but trying to sound warm. My father slid a printed sheet toward me titled Family Support Agreement. It was the same demand from the restaurant, $800 a month, for Stacy's expenses, now formalized like a contract. I scanned it, my stomach twisting. "This again?" I asked, my voice sharp. My mother's eyes narrowed. "We raised you, Jess. You owe us this." My father nodded, his voice heavy. "You're successful because of us. Don't be ungrateful now." Stacy smirked, tossing her phone aside. "Yeah, just don't act like you're above us." The guilt I'd always carried surged, but I pushed it down, my anger rising. "I've given you thousands, textbooks, mortgage payments, Stacy's camera." "When does it end?" I demanded. Stacy rolled her eyes, muttering, "If Mom and Dad didn't have that $25,000 savings, maybe we'd need your money more." The room froze. My mother's face paled, shooting Stacy a glare. My father's eyes widened, his hands clenching. "What savings?" I asked, my voice cutting through the silence. Stacy faltered, realizing her mistake. "It's just their retirement fund," as she stammered. "It's for emergencies, not like we're hiding it." My father jumped in, defensive. "It's for our future, Jess. We needed to know you'd step up." I stared at them, my blood boiling. $25,000 tucked away while they bled me dry for every cent. This wasn't about need, it was about control. "You lied to me," I said, my voice trembling with rage. "You let me sacrifice my dreams to test me." My mother tried to speak, her tone softer. "Jess, it's not like that," but I cut her off. "It's exactly like that." I pulled out my phone, my hands shaking, and started typing. I posted on social media, laying it all bare, the years of demands, the $8,000 car bill, the $800 a month plan, and now their secret savings. I attached screenshots of my mother's text, the family support agreement, everything. "This is what my family did to me," I wrote. "They used me, lied to me, and mocked my work." I hit post, my heart racing. Within hours, the post exploded. Cousins, neighbors, even Stacy's online followers commented, shocked and angry. My phone buzzed with notifications, but I ignored them, watching my parents' faces as they saw the post. My mother's voice was shrill. "Take that down, Jess. You're ruining us." My father stood, his face red. "You're tearing this family apart." Stacy glared, her voice venomous. "You're so selfish, Jess. You'll pay for this." I stood, my resolve like steel. "I've paid enough," I said, my voice steady. "You used me, lied to me, and I'm done." I grabbed my purse, the air thick with their anger, and walked out. My mother shouted after me, "You'll regret this." Stacy yelled something about me being a traitor, but their voices faded as the door slammed shut. The cool Portland air hit my face, a mix of freedom and fury surging through me. I'd exposed their lies, and there was no going back. They'd feel the weight of their actions soon enough. After exposing my family's lies on social media, I felt a strange mix of relief and weight, like I'd unshackled myself but still carried the scars. My phone kept buzzing with notifications, cousins unfollowing Stacy, neighbors, messaging support, but I needed more than likes to move forward. I was done being their bank, but I wasn't sure how to rebuild me. A coworker suggested Dr. Barbara Klein, a therapist in downtown Portland known for untangling family messes. I booked a session, my hands shaky as I parked outside her office, a small space with warm lighting and a soft gray couch. Dr. Klein listened as I spilled everything: the dinner, the $8,000 car bill, the $800 a month demand, the $25,000 secret savings. Her voice was steady grounding. "Your family used guilt to control you, Jess," she said. "They made you feel responsible for their choices." It hit hard like a mirror, showing me I'd been their pawn, not their hero. She helped me unpack years of conditioning, how my parents' expectations wired me to put their needs above mine. Each session peeled back layers, painful but freeing, like cleaning a wound, to let it heal. I also met Janet Reed, a financial advisor a friend recommended. Her office was sleek with charts pinned to a wall. I brought my bank statements, embarrassed by the numbers staring back. Janet didn't judge. She tallied every dollar I'd given my family: $500 for Stacy's textbooks, $1,000 for her camera, $2,000 for their mortgage. The total hit me like a punch: $20,000 over 3 years. "That's a deposit on an apartment," Janet said, her tone matter of fact. She built me a budget, funneling money into savings, showing me how to reclaim my future. Needing something to ground me, I signed up for a photography class at a local studio. My first shots were shaky, my framing off, but the instructor, a kind woman named Claire, encouraged me to keep going. I met Allison Burke and Danielle Ford, 2 women in the class who invited me for coffee afterward. They were easy to talk to, no demands, no agendas. We'd laugh about bad exposures or dream about art projects, and I felt a spark of connection I'd missed for years. At work, I threw myself into my role as an environmental specialist. My boss noticed my focus, assigning me a high-profile project to assess a local river's health. I spent long hours analyzing data, drafting reports, and it paid off: a promotion to senior specialist with a raise. For the first time, my job felt like a source of pride, not just a means to fund my family's needs. I set boundaries, turning off my phone after 7 p.m. to dodge their calls. The guilt lingered, but Dr. Klein's words echoed. "Their problems aren't yours, Jess." My boyfriend, Kevin Walsh, was my anchor. Over dinner at a quiet Portland cafe, he pulled out a notebook, sketching a financial plan with me. We mapped out savings goals, a timeline for an apartment, even a small fund for a photography trip. "You're building your life now," Kevin said, his eyes warm. His support wasn't just practical, it was a reminder I wasn't alone. We'd spend weekends hiking, snapping photos of misty forests, or just talking, and I felt a peace I hadn't known in years. But my family wasn't done. A month later, my grandmother, Margaret Harper, called, her voice frail but kind, asking me to a family gathering at their house. She said it was a chance to clear the air. I hesitated, but her warmth pulled me in. I arrived at the old wooden house, clutching a photo I'd printed from class, my heart racing. The living room was crowded, my parents, Stacy cousins, but the mood was tense, no warmth in their eyes. My mother leaned forward, her voice sharp. "Jess, Stacy needs $300 for a new phone. You can help, right?" Stacy nodded, adding, "It's only fair, Jess, you're doing so well." My father's stare was heavy. "Don't let us down again." I clenched my fists, the old guilt creeping in, but my grandmother raised a hand, her voice firm. "Enough," she said, her eyes locking on my parents. "Jess posted the truth online. Your lies, Your demands that $25,000 fund. I saw it, and so did everyone else. The room went silent. My mother's face paled. Stacy shifted uncomfortably, and my father's jaw tightened. I seized the moment, my voice steady. You used me for years. Textbooks, bills, Stacy's dreams while hiding your savings. I'm done. Gasps rippled through the cousins. My grandmother nodded her eyes, sad but proud. You've shamed her enough, she said to my parents. Let her go. My mother tried to argue, her voice rising. Jess, you're tearing us apart, Stacy scoffed. You're just jealous of me. But their words didn't stick. I stood, my photo still in hand, and walked out, my grandmother's support fueling me. My post had already cost them their reputation. Cousins distanced themselves. Neighbors whispered. I'd made them face their lies, and I wasn't stopping. My life was mine now, and I was ready to build it. 3 months after that tense family gathering, I knew the next one would be my last. My grandmother, Margaret Harper, had called, her voice soft but insistent, asking me to come to a Thanksgiving dinner at their house in outer Portland. She promised a chance to heal things, but my gut screamed caution. I'd rebuilt my life therapy, new friends, a promotion, and my family's lives were public now, their reputation crumbling after my social media post. Still, I went clutching a framed photo from my photography class, hoping for closure, not reconciliation. The old wooden house felt heavier than ever, the air thick with tension. My parents, William Harper and Cynthia Harper, sat at the dining table, their smiles forced. My sister, Stacy Harper, slouched beside them, her eyes darting to her phone. My grandmother sat quietly, her hands folded, watching. Cousins filled the room, their chatter fading as I walked in. I set the photo down, my heart pounding, ready for whatever they'd throw at me. My mother spoke first, her voice sweet but calculated. Jess, Stacy's credit card debt is piling up $2,000. You can cover it right. Stacy nodded, her tone smug. Come on, Jess, you're rolling in it now. My father leaned forward, his gaze heavy. Family doesn't abandon family, Jess. I clenched my fist, the familiar guilt creeping in, but it was weaker now, drowned by the truth I'd uncovered. Before I could respond, my grandmother raised a trembling hand, silencing the room. Enough, she said, her voice firm despite her age. Jess exposed your lies, demanding her money while hiding $25,000. I'm ashamed of you all. Her eyes swept the table, landing on my parents. You manipulated her, mocked her work, and used her kindness. My mother's face paled. Stacy shifted uncomfortably, and my father's jaw tightened. You used me for years. Textbooks, bills, Stacy's dreams while lying about your savings. I'm done with you all. I pulled out my phone, posting a final update online, more screenshots of their text, the family support agreement, even a bank statement showing their secret fund. This is the family that bled me dry, I wrote. The post went live, my hands steady now. Gasps erupted from the cousins. My mother's voice broke. Jess, you're destroying us. Stacy scoffed, her face red. You're pathetic, Jess, airing our business like that. My father stood, his voice booming. You're no daughter of mine. But my grandmother squeezed my hand, her eyes warm. You're stronger than they'll ever be. Jess, she whispered. I nodded, tears pricking my eyes, not from pain, but from freedom. I stood, leaving the photo behind, and walked out the door, clicking shut. Their shouts faded into the cold Portland air. Weeks later, I heard through a cousin that my parents had lost their house. Without my money, they couldn't keep up with the mortgage, moving to a cramped apartment downtown. Stacy's influencer dreams collapsed. Her followers gone after my posts exposed her greed. She took a retail job, her plans in ashes. It didn't feel like victory, it hurt, knowing they'd fallen so far, but it proved they'd relied on me to avoid their own failures. Meanwhile, I closed on a 1-bedroom apartment in a quiet Portland neighborhood. Kevin Walsh, my boyfriend, helped carry boxes, his laughter filling the space. We painted the walls a warm beige, hung my photos from class, and planned a housewarming with Allison Burke and Danielle Ford, my friends from photography. My job as a senior environmental specialist kept me busy, but I made time for therapy with Dr. Klein and coffee with Janet Reed, who cheered my financial progress. For the first time, I felt whole, not a ledger for their demands, but a woman with her own dreams. Looking back, I learned something vital. Your worth isn't tied to how much you give others, even family. They made me feel small, like my job. My life didn't matter unless it served them. But I wasn't their bank, I was me, Jess with goals, passions, and a future I could shape. If you're stuck in a cycle of guilt giving until it hurts, stop. You don't owe anyone your dreams. Set boundaries, stand tall, and live for yourself. It's not selfish, it's survival. Thank you for listening to my story. If you've ever felt used by those you love, share your truth in the comments. Hit that subscribe button and let's keep this conversation going. You're not alone.